All right, tell me if you've been here. You are all excited because you spent days or weeks or months working on the most awesome product that people need, and you know it's going to change people's lives, and it's so exciting and it's awesome, and you really worked hard on it and you are ready to go. So you post it and you spend all this time on the listing and the pictures and make sure everything looks perfect, and you're so excited and you press submit and you post it and there's crickets. I don't know if you've ever been here, but I have certainly been here. And the reason is usually because when you have a product that you really like and you know it's a good product, but you aren't getting any sales, then usually it's because you lacked a solid launch strategy. So if you're like, Becca, what is a launch strategy? A launch is basically a set amount of time that you really focus on promoting a new product. So this is, you know, maybe a couple of days, maybe a week that you are promoting a product. You usually have some sort of promotional price and you really encourage people to buy at that time. When you do a launch correctly, you can make a good amount of money at the very beginning to really set the stage for the rest of your product's lifetime. When done incorrectly, you get more crickets. Now, I have launched things both successfully and not so successfully. And so in this video, we're gonna talk about launching tips and ideas and tricks and just things that, especially really that I did well this time I launched a new product versus the other times, and really just talk about the difference. So in this video, we're gonna talk about like why you would wanna launch, what you would wanna launch, and then we're gonna talk about a couple of really good tips for things that you should be doing. The things that I did this time that were different than what I did in previous launches that were not so successful, and we'll wrap it up by bringing it in with something that's a little bit smaller, like a TBT product, and show you a really easy way to launch that and strategies for that. Now, disclaimer, as we talk throughout this video, I am going to mention a lot of things that require having an audience. So we'll talk about sending emails, and we'll talk about social media, and we'll talk about all of that kind of stuff. If you don't have those things, that's okay. Use whatever you do have. And if you don't have anything, then you might want to spend some time at building up your audience in order to make these strategies work. Because if you don't have anybody on your email list and you send them an email, still no one's going to buy. So these strategies only work if you have at least a small audience. So do be aware of that. If you don't have an audience right now, watch this, maybe save it for later and work on building that audience, and you can come back to this in the future. So first things first, like what would we need to launch? So when I'm referring to a product that we're launching, I'm really referring to a bigger product. I sell on Teachers Pay Teachers, which is a marketplace similar to Etsy, but it's all digital and it's all for teachers. And on there we have a lot of products that are $2, $3, $4. That's not what I'm talking about here. I am not going to spend all of this time working on launch strategies for a $3 product. The most I would do for a $3 product would be to post it, maybe send it to my email list, talk about it on Instagram, but that's about it. These strategies are really referring to bigger products. So that could be a big product, that could be a bundle, that could be a unit, or that could be an online course. I know a lot of y'all have told me that you've been working on online courses, so that's why I really wanted to get this out ASAP, and we are gonna talk mostly about my online course past as far as things that will help you to make sales, because that's kind of like the things you can really track well. So without further ado, let's get down to the strategies. So when it comes to launching your product, your first thing you need to do before you make anything is to validate. So validating means that you just make sure that people are actually interested in what you are making, so that you don't waste a whole bunch of time and effort on things that don't quite pan out. Kind of like how I already filmed this video last week and then I accidentally deleted it. So now I just wasted all of that time and all the time trying to recover the video and all of this time that I am remaking this video. Don't do that. When you make a product that is a bigger product, you're gonna spend a lot of time on it. So you really wanna make sure that people are interested in the product so that there is, you know, people are actually going to buy it and you're actually going to get a return on that investment of your time. So a couple of ways in order to validate. Number one, if you already have things that are selling, think is something similar to this selling. So for example, on Teachers Pay Teachers, I sell elementary music lessons, and so I have a couple of like rhythm games that are digital, and they were selling pretty well. So I was like, great. Last year I decided to make a really big bundle on Teachers Pay Teachers, and I launched it and actually like went through some of these steps, and I knew people would buy them because they were already buying the other similar ones. So those were like a rhythm game, and this was like pretty much the same rhythm game, but it was zoo animal themed, and it was a little bit more elaborate. There were a lot more activities and stuff like that. So I already knew people would purchase it because they had purchased those things, and so that told me that I would probably get people to buy these. Number two, if you don't have products, or you know, even if you do, would be whether your content is doing well. Content that's doing particularly well. So if you have YouTube, if you have a blog, if you have an Instagram, if you have a TikTok, like whatever, if you notice that certain subjects do better than others, that is a sign that those are things people are interested in. So for example, videos here on my YouTube channel, I originally was talking about elementary music, and I was talking about TPT, and the TPT videos did a lot better, so I started going with those. That told me that this is what people wanted from me, this is where the data was, so that's where I went. I've also seen this on Instagram. My friend Emily Karst over at Joyful Noise Teaching, she shares reels, also on TikTok, but she was sharing lots of teacher reels, and she found that when she did like tech tips and digital things, they did really well. So she started leaning into that, and then she started creating courses. She has 2 courses at the moment that are both about, like, one's creating digital resources, and then the other one is like a whole bunch of tech tools to use in your classroom. And she has these courses because she saw that her tech tip reels were doing really well, and so she validated her idea because she, you know, had people who were watching them, made more of those, gained more of a following with that particular audience that wanted tech tips from her. And then she started asking them, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And they said yes, and so she's doing really well with that. So if you have content with, again, blog, YouTube, Instagram, whatever, and you notice that certain things do better than others, see if you can take those certain things that people are interested in and turn that into your product. Kind of along that line, if you have, number 3, lots of questions about something in particular. So that's actually where we got to this new course that I just launched. It is called Blogging for Profit for Teacherpreneurs, and it is all about like how to start a blog and continue a blog, and like all of the strategies that you need to start a blog, write good blog posts people actually want to read, talk about traffic, and we're talking about, you know, how to actually convert readers into buyers and all of that good stuff. And it all stemmed out of people sending me DMs and saying, hey, how do I start a blog? I want to start a blog. What's the best way to do that? How do I save time when I have a blog? This, that, blog. And the thing is that when someone sends me a DM on Instagram, at Becca.e.davis, by the way, and they're like, hey, how do I start a blog? I'm like, there's not enough characters for me to tell you all the things you need to know in order to be a successful blogger, you know? Like, that is not just something I can send you a couple bullet points or a couple words and then be done. Like, it is a very in-depth topic. And so as I got more and more people asking me about blogging, I was like, oh, okay, we should create some kind of course to help people with this subject, because obviously they're interested because they're asking me about it. So another way you can validate is through that. And number 4 is the one you'll actually hear most people tell you at the beginning, but I wanted to give you the other things at the beginning. And that is having either a free or a small paid product associated with your big product that you're making. So if you're making like a year-long set of writing prompts, then make one set of writing prompts and see how they sell, or make a free set of writing prompts and see if people sign up to get the free set of writing prompts, and just make sure that people are interested that way. I will say that if you have a paid product, that's going to be better data than a free product, because when someone actually has to put money down on it, that is a much bigger investment than if they are, you know, just getting it for free. But the benefit being that if it's for free, you can get them on your email list, so you can communicate with them. So there's, you know, good things to both of those. And so that is one of the best ways that you can really validate. Now, my suggestion would be to start with the other things. So start with like, people are purchasing these things, or people are asking me these questions, or these reels are doing really well. And then from there, have a small paid product or a free product that people can get in order to see if they're actually willing to, you know, give their email, give their money for whatever this is that they're interested in from you. You can also just have people sign up for the wait list of your course to see if they're interested, but I wouldn't do that super far in advance. I would do that if you're kind of sooner. So if you're gonna launch within like the next month, that'd be great. But if you're still like 6 months out, or you're still like, I don't really know what it's gonna be yet, then I would go with a smaller freebie or a small paid product instead to kind of gauge more of the interest. Okay, so people are interested in your product. Awesome. Now you need to start the conversation. So content is your side of the conversation with your audience. So that can be content on Instagram, on blogs, on YouTube, on, you know, other social media platforms, on email lists, like whatever it is, you start the conversation by whatever you are posting, whatever you're putting out there. So if you know that you want to have a product, then start the conversation now. So for example, with my blogging course, I started this conversation way back in February, knowing that I wasn't gonna launch this product until like June. And so I just started making a couple of videos about blogging. I started asking questions about blogging on Instagram and just doing a couple of things like that to kind of put it out there. And what I found is that the more I put that out there, the more questions I got, the more people that came to me with these concerns that they had. So my Q&As were starting to be more and more about blogging, and people were sending me messages about blogging because I had kind of put my foot in the ground by saying, hey, here's a video about blogging, here's another video about blogging, here's another video about blogging. So I started the conversation that way. You can do the same thing. Before you are going to have your product, start having the conversation about whatever it is. If you're making a classroom management course for teachers, then maybe you start talking about classroom management and you start talking about why it's important, what are the fundamentals, what are things people need to know, what are things people shouldn't do in classroom management, those kind of things that kind of prepare people, and just again start that conversation so they know, hey, I'm someone you can come to talk about classroom management, or I'm someone you can come to talk about blogging, or whatever it is that we're talking about, so people are aware. If it's more of like an activity, so maybe you're doing like a Google Drive activity bundle, then start talking about that ahead of time. So maybe talk about digital resources, how to use digital resources, tips for using digital resources, stuff like that. So you're just, you know, what do people need to know before they get to my course, or to convince them that they need my course or my product or my bundle. Along with talking about the subject, you can also talk about your product even before it's made. Seriously, I used to think that you should just like, you know, keep everything a secret and like nobody knows until it's like, bam, here it is. And I have learned that's not the case. The more secretive you keep it, the less people will be excited about it. Because if they know about it, then they get a chance to be excited about it. They're thinking about it. They're like, should I buy it? Should I not buy it? I don't know. Let's think about it. If there's a price tag associated with it, they can maybe start saving up. They can, you know, they think about it. It's just, it keeps it on top of their mind when you are very open about like, hey, I'm gonna have a course, or hey, I'm gonna have this big bundle, or hey, I'm gonna have, you know, this huge product. It's gonna be awesome. You're gonna love it. And it starts creating that hype. I have a whole video, by the way, about creating hype for your resources. I will link it down below. But it really just helps, again, create that hype, get people excited so that they're interested and that they know that it's coming out. I have read a couple of different statistics about how many times people need to see something before they buy it. I've heard like 6 and I've heard like 8. But basically people need a lot of, they call them touch points with whatever it is in order to purchase. So if you have a new product and you're like, hey, new product, you'll get a couple of people who buy. But if you like warm them up and show it on Instagram a couple of times, post about it, talk about it, say it in your videos, say it in your email list, then you're getting people used to that conversation so they know. And then when the launch comes, 1, they're not surprised, and 2, they've already had a bunch of touch points, so there's less convincing that needs to happen when you actually have it available. The great thing about starting the conversation is that you can figure out their reservations. So when I started my blogging course, I started talking about blogging, and I also started asking people for questions. So I would periodically ask, you know, hey, ask me anything about blogging. Do you have a blog? Why do you have a blog? Why do you not have a blog? What's stopping you from having a blog? And all of these questions so that I could figure out what was concerning people, what was holding them back from it. And that helped me figure out both my content and also what was going in my course. So when I found out that people were concerned and they didn't know how to start a blog, I was like, okay, cool. Here's a free email course showing you how to start a blog. squashed. And then when they also said, oh, I don't have time to blog, I started talking about how I batch my blogs, and I have a whole section in my course about time management for blogging and how to make it easy and all of that kind of stuff, so that one was squashed. And people said they didn't know what to talk about, so I had a whole video talking about where to get ideas for your blog posts, so that one was squashed. So the more you can kind of figure out what people's concerns are, so that you can then squash their concerns and tell them that, you know, hey, I understand why you're concerned, but also here's your solution, then they're more likely to purchase, because they don't have that wall in between them and whatever it is, because you've already said, oh no, that's not true, like, oh no, this is, you know, this is the way to do it. This, by the way, is also often accomplished in what they call a launch runway. So think of like a plane taking off, so like this is the runway, and then like the launch. On the runway would be the weeks or even months leading up to your product launch, where you really want to address a lot of those really specific things that people are having concerns about. So like if you're gonna do a centers bundle and people say, oh, well, I don't do centers because my costume, you know, my kids go crazy, then you can have a blog post or an Instagram post or an email where you're talking about how to do classroom management for centers, so that then they're not worried as much about the classroom management, because you already solved that problem for them, so they're more likely to purchase. And you can kind of build those up in the weeks leading to your launch, so that again, people are thinking about whatever you're talking about, and they are also getting all those reservations, all those excuses are going away, they're getting squashed, so that they can then be ready to launch along with you in the airplane. Right? One last thing about starting the conversation, and that is the sooner the better. Like I said, I used to think that you should keep it a secret. It's not true. The sooner you start talking about it, the better, because the more people will be excited about it. They'll know it's coming and they will be ready when it does. Okay, so those are all things that happen like before you even have anything to make, or you just started making your course or your product or whatever it is that you're creating. And now we're gonna go on to like right before. So right before, you can have people again on your wait list. You can make like an email list of people who are on the wait list, or you could also do a pre-sale price. Now these are things you don't have to do, but they're just options. And pre-sale means that you put it on sale before it's actually available, usually at a pretty steep discount. So that way people can show you they're interested, and they can go ahead and get in early before you've even launched the product. So these are two strategies that are really good for kind of like really making sure people are actually gonna buy this, because if you sign up for a wait list, or if you buy at the, you know, early bird price, then you're like really invested and you're like, I'm going to do this, versus being on the fence. It gives you a way to make sure again that people are going to buy and to get people in there early, and it also gives them a way to, you know, get involved before the end of the launch period. So you don't have to do that, but you can. If you are only selling on TPT, awesome. Ways you can do that, again, you can still do a wait list on an email list. I'll link a video about email down below. And you can't really do a pre-sale price, but you could do a product that's like a placeholder. So you could maybe have it like as a pre-sale, and then the product being just like, hey, this is what you're going to get when it's released. Now, anytime that you are doing a pre-sale of anything, you want to be extra super duper clear that everybody knows that this is a pre-sale, which means that you are not getting anything yet. The worst thing that could happen is someone sign up, they get it, and then expect to have the whole product and it's not there. So make sure people are aware. So like if you're doing this on TPT, I would put pre-sale in giant letters on your cover and on all your thumbnails and in the preview, and just make sure that people are aware that like nothing is available yet. Nothing's available yet, and when it will be available. So make sure that date is everywhere. There should be no confusion about when it will be available or when they will get it. So that's my caveat to that. All right, we finally entered launch week. So once you're ready for your product to actually be sold, then you're ready to launch your product. So pick a set amount of days, that could be like 3 days, that could be a week, that you're going to have your launch sale, your launch promotion, and make sure that you spend a lot of time talking about your product. So it's not just like, hey, it's available, go buy it, happy launch week, but it's like you really want to put some effort into the launch. Launching is like a whole thing in and of itself. So when you're ready to launch your product, you're going to, number one, send lots of emails. I know that sometimes it's hard and you're like, I don't want to send emails because I don't want to be annoying. Send a lot of emails because people will be excited, hopefully, if you really prepped it beforehand, and they'll want to purchase. Along with that, you really want to make sure you send enough emails because you want to make sure that people get in at the price that is the launch price. I have had launches in the past where they were over, and then the next day I got 4 or 5 emails of people who were like, oh no, I missed the email. Can I still get it on sale? And because I'm a teacher, I'm like, no. Because I'm very like, I mean what I say in my business and in my classroom, and that's really frustrating to me and also to them. It's frustrating to them because they didn't get the launch price, and so they wanted it and they couldn't have it, and it's frustrating to me because now, one, I didn't make those sales, or I have to give them the price and go back on my word, and neither of those are fun things to do. So really make sure that everyone is aware there is a sale, this is available, you can get it. I really noticed this when I launched my Level Up Your Teacher Business course for the second time this year. I did like a reboot and I added a bunch of stuff and I relaunched it, and I noticed that every time I sent an email I would get another sale or 2 sales or 3 sales, and I was thinking like, if I hadn't sent that email, because I sent more than I wanted to, and I was like, if I hadn't sent those emails, those people wouldn't be in the course, and either they would be upset because they didn't get that launch price, and or I would be upset because then I didn't, you know, get the money that I get when they get the course. And so it was like, okay, those emails really are necessary because it allows everyone to have the chance to purchase at the launch price. So you're gonna wanna send at least 1 a day, and sometimes 2, and on the last day, probably 3, just to make sure that everyone's aware of what it is. Now with your emails, you don't want them all to just be like, hey, launch sale, go buy it. You want to, again, address some of those confusions. You want to talk in detail about what's in your course or your product. You want to talk about how awesome it is and how it changed your life and just all of those things. You really want to convince people over launch week that they need your product. And if you approach it from the idea of, I don't want you to miss out, that's going to really help you to get okay with having so many emails, because I know I was like, I don't want to write this many emails. It seems so pushy, but like, you need to be pushy because you need to push people so that they'll do what they need to do for themselves. If you believe in your product and you believe that it's really going to help people, then it shouldn't be an issue. Okay, along with launch prices, you could also do launch bonuses. Now, I don't do this because I'm kind of like, but my product, like, it is what it is and it's awesome as it is, and so you should buy it. But you can do bonus features for your product. So you could do, you know, extra PDFs or extra videos, or you could throw in something else, or whatever it is. You can do those bonuses that are only available during launch week in order to encourage people to purchase during that launch time. So you can do, you know, just whatever freebies you want to add on there. And that is an option. If you are on TPT and you're doing a bundle, you could add these as things. There's like, you can add products just to the bundle instead of like to your store. So you could do it that way so that people have to buy the bundle in order to get the extra thing. But however you want to do that is fine. And whatever you want to use is, you know, just extra. Again, just pushes it over the top. Number 3 in your launch week best practices is to do a Q&A or frequently asked questions. So I would suggest, if you have like an Instagram following or a Twitter following, ask them for questions so that you can then, you know, tell them what the answers are. Or if you're here on YouTube, you know, ask people for questions, and then you can make a video, or you can make a blog post, or you can make an email that's addressing all of those frequently asked questions. I find this really helpful because then you can say, like, in your emails or in your Instagram, like, hey, you know, you can click here to buy, or you can click here to learn more. And there were some people who like still had hesitancies, they still weren't quite sure, and that allowed them to, you know, make sure that they were okay. It also showed me what people's concerns were so that then I could address that in my marketing. So if someone was concerned because one question I got a lot was like, with this course in particular was if they had to do it when we were launching it. The answer being no, you have lifetime access. So that was something I wanted to make sure that I highlighted after I found that that was an issue. And so I started saying, hey, you have lifetime access. You'll have it forever. You can do it whenever you want. You can come back and do it a second time. And all of those things just really helped me to know what I needed to say and also help people to be okay with purchasing. And the last thing I'm gonna say about your launch is that you just really wanna make sure that everyone is aware. Like, everybody should know that you are launching a product. It should not be a secret to anybody who is following you anywhere. It should be very, very obvious. People should know, because if they don't know, they can't buy. And again, if you believe in your product, you believe that your product is going to help people, you want them to buy because it's going to make their lives better. Like, what is better than that? You want to make sure that they know that it's available, they know it's on sale, they know it's, or maybe you're doing a cart closing so that they're only going to be able to buy it at a certain amount at a certain time of year. So you really want to make sure that anybody who is going to purchase is able to purchase. So those are kind of like your best practices as far as launching go. Now let's talk about my newest course and kind of what made that one different. So my newest course, like I mentioned, is Blogging for Profit for Teacherpreneurs. For reference, I've had 2 other courses. So I have one that's called Sell Your Teaching Resources from the Ground Up, and I have one that's called Level Up Your Teacher Business. And those 2 I both released in 2020. And then I did a relaunch of one of them this year. They've both been available for purchase throughout, and so I've been sending people, you know, I have lots of different ways to get people over there. But the new course, Blogging for Profit for Teacherpreneurs, was only on sale. I did an open and close cart, so people currently cannot purchase. And so it was only actually available for about 2 weeks. It was like on pre-sale for a week and then available for a week. And it sold exactly the same amount of courses as Level Up Your Teacher Business did, even though it was niched down because it was about blogging and not everyone's into blogging, and it was only available for 2 weeks, whereas the other one's been available for a whole year. So that just goes to show you, like, I did a lot of things this time that I did so much better than in the past, and it really showed. So what I did this time is, again, I started that conversation super, super early. We started talking about blogging in like February to launch in June, because I wanted to make sure that people were interested before I spent so much time. Mostly because now I knew how much time it takes to launch a product and create a course. So I was like, we're not doing this unless people are actually going to buy. So we started talking about it super, super early, and I talk about it mostly here on YouTube. And the way that YouTube works, if something's slightly out of your niche, YouTube is kind of unsure about who would like to watch it. So I couldn't just do like blog videos over and over, because if you weren't interested about blogging, it was gonna mess with the algorithm. We don't need to talk about it, but basically just trust me in that I needed to do like blogging and then kind of have like a couple of videos, then another video about blogging, and then a couple other videos to just kind of make sure that people were still seeing my videos, even if you weren't interested in blogging. Like, it's totally fine if you don't want to start a blog and you're not interested in blogging, but I want to make sure that I'm not alienating those people. We've been talking since then. So we had a video about the best way to market your products, which was content marketing, which is blog or YouTube. We did how to use your blog to sell your products. We did a video about how to start a blog. We did tips for blogging for beginners. We did how to batch your blog. We did a blogging Q&A. Like, we did all of these things, and it really helped to start that conversation early. I also started talking about my course really early and mentioning it and telling people that it was coming so that they were aware that it was available. In addition to that, I did a pre-sale for the first time ever. I've never done pre-sale before, and y'all, I am a fan of the pre-sale. And to be honest, some of you are gonna like cry when I tell you this because you actually did buy it. I did not start creating until after people had purchased. Which was the point of the pre-sale, because again, I was like, I'm not doing this if people are not interested. Like, it's just not gonna happen. And so I put it on pre-sale because I was like, I think people are interested, because I had a freebie associated with it and people had signed up for it and people were asking questions. And so I was like, okay, we'll put it on pre-sale, just make sure people are gonna buy. And first day, got a sale, and then another sale, and then another sale. Okay, so we're doing this. Did anybody just catch my Hamilton reference, by the way? Probably not. Anyway, so that really helped me to make sure that it was very, very validated and people actually wanted to do it. I will say it was very stressful then, because then I had a lot to do in a short amount of time because I hadn't started it earlier. But had people not signed up for it, I wouldn't have wasted all of the time of creating the course. So I did the pre-sale. I really pushed the pre-sale. I talked about it a lot, and that really helped, and I got a lot of people in during pre-sale. I didn't get as many people in during launch week, which was interesting, but I did get a couple more people, kind of stragglers, coming in through launch week, and then I closed the cart so you couldn't purchase anymore, and it will come back later, but I'm not sure when. I think having that also, the cart closed where you can't purchase it, and I told people like, yes, I'm gonna have it, but I don't know when, really also helped to get people to make sure that they purchased early, because, you know, if you're not sure whether you're gonna be able to get it later or not, you might as well get it now, even if you can't do it until July because you're still teaching or whatever it is. The other thing I really did to help with this launch is, again, I really worked on squashing those things that people were concerned about. So if you were concerned about anything having to do with blogging, I wanted to know so that we could talk about it, so that I could tell you how, yeah, it's valid, but also there are ways around it. So that was a huge thing for me for this launch, was just making sure that I knew all those objections so that we could get over them. Now, I know that we said that you do not really want to do all of this work unless it's a bigger product. So if you have a smaller product, or maybe like a bundle that's available on Teachers Pay Teachers, I wanted to give you some options for how to do kind of a launch, but not quite as like giant of a scale as this one was. So I have a couple of different products that I have like actually launched on TPT. Bigger products, bundles. So like I have the zoo animals composition activities I told you about earlier, and then another one called Asteroid, which is a game. Now this is a smaller product. I think it's like $10 for 4, but the way that I launched it is kind of how I think about any products that I really want to sell soon now. And the reason I did this was actually not even because I was like, oh, I need to launch this. It was because I was like, it's a game that like I kind of found and then I adjusted, and so I kind of made it up, and so I knew that people weren't going to know what it was. And so I was like, well, we need to make sure that people know what it is so that they buy it, because it's awesome and they need it. And I've heard really good reviews on it, so I do believe it's awesome and people need it. But anyway, so for Asteroid, I started talking about it pretty early, and specifically, even if I wasn't talking about that, I was talking about games, and I was talking specifically about like games for distance learning and games for if you're teaching from 6 feet away, and all of those things that weren't directly like my product yet, but they were still, you know, related, and they were kind of on that train of thought. I also on Instagram mentioned quite a few times that I was making this product, and I would kind of show people, and I kind of talked through it a couple of times, especially on stories. Stories is a great place for that. And that helped people to be aware of it as well, so they were, you know, not shocked when it came out. Then when it did come out, I created a blog post and a video about it that came out on the same day that I launched the product. Now again, I did this because I was like, you don't know how to play this game, so why on earth would you buy it from me? And so I really wanted to make sure that people could play it and they could try it and they could use it before, you know, they actually had to do it. So I had a blog post talking about it, and I had a video about it, and I sent an email about it, directing people to the blog post. And I also set one for free. So I didn't have the free one available earlier, although that would have been really smart. But I had one of the 4 available for free so that you could use one and try it and see if you liked it, and you would. And so then you would come back and buy the other ones, or you can just use a free one. Like, that's cool too. But having the blog post and the video and the email, and I talked about it on Instagram when it launched, and then I sent another email later on talking about just the product and trying to convince more people to buy it, and all of these things helped to launch that product. It wasn't like a months-long drawn-out thing. It was actually quite a short thing. It was like basically that day, and then kind of like that weekend, because I sent another email on Sunday, and I guess launched on Thursday. But that's kind of more of like a mini version of a launch if you have a smaller product that you don't want to do all the things for, but you still want to do something for to encourage people to purchase when you have it available. Again, this isn't something you would want to do for all of your $5 resources, which is why I wanted to show you kind of that. Yes, it is time consuming to write a blog post and make a video and all that good stuff, but I will also say that that product still sells really well today, which is what a good launch can do for you, is to really help kickstart those sales. And again, you do need to have an audience. So if I didn't have a YouTube channel, or I didn't have a blog, or I didn't have an email list, like I obviously wouldn't have been able to do that. But because I've been, you know, building things up over time, not all at once, but over time, then I now have things in place that I can use in order to help me sell, which is why I make such a big deal about you having an audience and having an email list and all of that good stuff. So launching can be great. You don't want to launch everything, but especially if you have a bigger product or a course coming or any of that kind of stuff, you really want to make sure that you are putting effort into it so that you're not wasting all the time that you spent making the product itself. If you have any questions, I would love if you left them down below, or any launch tips, secrets, leave those down below. And if you want more information about something specific like building an audience or any of that kind of stuff, let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time, if I don't accidentally delete this video too. But I hope not, because it's Monday and this comes out on Thursday. So, you know, there we go. Anyway, bye! Like watch, file life for so if you have a smaller product or maybe a bundle that's, would you stop? Hey.